Blog Talk Radio.
The funeral is about to begin.
The calling hours.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding? Kill all my death. Lose all my life.
Welcome to another episode of the Calling Hours Horror Podcast on Horror Society Radio. This is the head undertaker, the dead man, Michael Jones, writer at Horror Society, welcoming you to what will promise to be another fun and exciting episode of the Calling Hours. Tonight, as our feature interview, we are going to have writer, editor, producer, and actor Mark Torgl to discuss Toxic Tutu. For those of you that don't remember the name of Mark Torgl was Melvin in the original Toxic Avenger and starred in and had a few bit pieces in a few other Troma films, including the upcoming Return to Nukem High 2, or Volume 2, excuse me. So we'll certainly be asking him about his early days in Troma, his more recent days in Troma, and of course, Toxic Tutu. In our indie spotlight this evening, we are going to have Deanna Uutela of Living Dead magazine on. It's one of the featured magazines that the dead man writes for on the side when he's not doing stuff at Horror Society. So we're going to get a little bit more info on the upcoming issues and just how things are going on over at Living Dead magazine. We will also be reviewing Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Cat People and IFC's Haunter, as well as having several bands in our Metal Blade Records Spotlight. But before things get too crazy, we have about 10 minutes until our good buddy Miss Uutela joins us. So I'm thinking that we should probably go into digital dismemberment. What do you guys think?
Digital dismemberment.
Yes, and the first DVD in our digital dismemberment series this evening will be IFC's Haunter. And this is a little bit different. This is a good ghost story. Let me give you a little bit of the background info on this one. A teenager comes to the distressing realization that she is a ghost and must save others from the fate that befell her years earlier in the eerie horror thriller Haunter. The latest film from scare master Vincenzo Natali arrives on Blu-ray and DVD February 11th via IFC Midnight. It's quite the interesting ghost story. Like I said, Abigail Breslin, Abigail Breslin stars in the film, and she plays Lisa. And she and her family died in their home under sinister circumstances. Unable to move on, their spirits have continued to roam the house. And for nearly 30 years, they've had to live the same miserable day over and over, never thinking anything but alive. But now, Lisa has started noticing things that make her believe that she and her uncomprehending family are in fact ghosts. On top of that, she realizes that she must reach out from beyond the grave to help her living counterpart, Olivia, and her family avoid the same gruesome fate that Lisa and her loved ones suffered all those years ago. It's got a great cast. You have veteran actor Stephen McHattie as the Pale Man, Eleanor Zicki, Peter Outerbridge, Michelle Nolden, and David Hewlett. As far as ghost stories go, I haven't been a big fan of the Paranormal Activity or anything like that. But the best film I can think of in terms of tone and quality that have a similar capacity to this one would be Main Entertainment's Compound Fracture. One of the things at first visually I was a little worried about when I popped Haunter in was it almost seemed like it had too much of a slick visual feel to it. But as the film went on, that sort of became adaptable to your eyes, and you didn't notice it as much. But one of the comparisons that it's given a lot, that it's compared to in terms of another film, even though it's not horror, is Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. Because basically what's going on is Lisa and her family keep living the day before her birthday over and over and over again. And Lisa starts to notice, that something's wrong, and she starts having visions of death and the very mysterious Pale Man. And as the film progresses, she starts to see snippets and kind of flash sequences of not only kind of what happened to her, but what happened to the other victims and how far it goes back. And she tries along the way to convince her family members that what's going on is legitimate and that they need to quote-unquote wake up, even though the Pale Man has warned her that he will make their lives a living hell if she continues to do what she does. So the story becomes more involved, and you find out there's also, basically what it is that, spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, that the fathers in the situations are basically being possessed by the spirit of the Pale Man, and he murders the families in the same way over and over. Well, Lisa, manages to get her family's souls out of the house, and she goes directly to confront the Pale Man and to try and stop the murder of the new girl, the current people living in the house. And kind of what's unique about, another thing that's unique about this film is it's almost like the living and the dead haunting, another ghost. It's almost such a backward concept to imagine that a ghost could haunt another ghost, but for the narrative, it works extremely well. I thought the house that they shot in was an incredible set piece. You definitely got the gothic undertones, the dreaded sense of isolation, just everything that would make it seem so confined. It kind of makes sense at the end when you first see the house and all you see is the fog, and you notice at the towards the end of the movie when she tries to escape or leave that it's actually in a neighborhood. And it's kind of a shock almost when you realize that Lisa is dead and her family is dead. Because it almost seems like an everyday family with the same occurrences. But as the family members all start to become cognizant of the fact that they have passed on, there's the very gripping sequence at the end where Lisa confronts her father and they realized what has happened. And like I said, from an effect standpoint, there's really not any blood to speak of. The visual effects are very good. Again, a lot of it is digital. But like I said, you adjust to the fact that it's visual with it being a supernatural tale. Would have been an interesting film to have seen theatrically. I would have liked to have seen what it looked and sounded like on the big screen. But again, it's definitely not a bad film, and as a modern film goes, especially for paranormal and ghosts, it's actually very well done and very entertaining. The biggest behind-the-scenes on there is a featurette with all the members of the cast and the crew talking about, the making of the film, the locations, how well they all work together. You know, the things that you would typically hear on a behind the scenes. It is a pretty unique visual experience. It said that it would thrill fans of films such as The Lovely Bones, The Others, and Insidious. Personally, I enjoyed it a little bit more than Insidious. The Others was an okay movie. I have to be honest and say I have not seen the Lovely Bones, so I can't compare it to that. Like I said, the best comparison I can give it would be to Tyler Maine's Compound Fracture, which I thought was definitely an excellent ghost story. So as far as picking this movie up, I would certainly say so. As far, you know, with the special features, the behind the scenes, you have a few trailers, things like that. It gets about a 6.5, 7 on the overall special features for the DVD. The film itself, impressive quality. Excuse me. Great cast, great acting. I would give the film itself around a 7, between a 7 and an 8. There's nothing actually very gratuitous about the film. Some of the violence can be seen as implied. Could be a little graphically intense for younger children, but like I said, you know, as far as nudity, I really don't even remember coming across much language, to be honest with you, as well. So I'm not quite sure if I would recommend this one for everyone in the family, but again, especially if you're a fan of Abigail Breslin, and of course you should remember her from Zombieland and things like that, Little Miss Sunshine. So it's definitely worth checking out. And don't forget that Vincenzo Natali, the director, is also part of ABCs of Death 2. So that's going to be something else to watch out for here in the coming days. So I would highly recommend you get this. You can head over to IFC Midnight and order it directly from them. I'm not sure if there is any availability for download off of iTunes or anything like that. I believe I did read that it was available for VOD. So definitely check that out. And, of course, you can also go to your local retailer, or you can order it through Amazon or something like that. So definitely worth checking out. But we're going to move into our indie spotlight for the evening, and we have on Deanna Uutela. Am I saying that correctly?
It's Uutela.
Uutela. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
I hate it
at
when
least
I
in the States,
name.
it's Uutela. It's Finnish, so in Finland, that would be correct. It would be Uutela, but here in the States, it changed to Uutela.
Funny thing, I'm not Finnish. I don't know how I got that, but it works out. Well, Deanna, you know, for those of you that didn't know, Deanna is pretty much the brains behind Living Dead magazine, which is one of the magazines that I moonlight for when I'm not doing the podcast or doing other assorted dirty deeds for Horror Society. It's great to have you on. Kind of tell everyone how it's been going.
Good to talk to you.
Oh yes, you know it's funny. Deanna and I have only communicated through Facebook, and you're in Washington, aren't you? Washington State?
No, I'm actually in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay. I thought you were up in Seattle for some reason.
No, Portland right now. Going to be soon down in Southern California, but yeah, the magazine started out of Portland.
Well, kind of give everyone an idea of how the magazine got started and how you became involved with it.
Sure. Well, much like many horror enthusiasts, I in particular love horror magazines, and I have since I was 15, and I'm 35 now, and I've always wanted to do my own horror magazine. I'm a journalist, and I've always written for horror websites and other horror magazines, and I just really wanted to start my own. So I was lucky enough to do that through crowdfunding. We did it through Kickstarter. It was really popular. It got funded, and here we are. We're on our 3rd issue coming out in May.
Well, now, kind of tell everyone about the first 2 issues. I mean, I started writing for the second one, and I thought it was a fantastic issue. I thought the artwork was absolutely amazing that you got for it. You know, kind of tell people where you get your ideas, you know, for the magazine, and you know where you get the artwork from.
Well, so the first issue that we did was kind of just a hodgepodge of horror. I just wanted to kind of represent horror new and old. I've been really active in the horror community at large for a long period of time, so it's easy for me to get horror artists to contribute to the magazine for the cover and in features, because I've just networked so much in the last several years. And I also go to conventions, and whenever I'm at horror conventions or Comic-Cons, I always am introducing myself to great artists out there, and there's so many good new artists and people that have been doing it forever that are just really looking to be featured. And so I really like to take advantage of that in the magazine. I like to do, instead of just using the same artists every issue, I like to represent new art that's out there and just show people, all the amazing things that we have in horror, from, whether it's photography or painting or new graphic artists. So the magazine, I really try to represent the horror community at large, not, big and large, not just the mainstream horror. I like to show people that are doing like Etsy art and everybody out there to get represented in.
Now, let me ask you this. We've had Fangoria on the scene since I think it was going back to 78. Rue Morgue's one of the big magazines, things like that. What is it that Living Dead magazine brings to the table that those two don't?
Well, Fangoria and Rue Morgue are two of my favorite horror magazines, so I subscribe to them. I love both of them. I think what I wanted to do that was a little bit different is talk more about horror businesses. I really want to connect with my horror community. I don't want to just focus on horror films. I feel like there's a lot of people like myself who consider themselves that they live a horror lifestyle. So they like to find out, where to shop for horror clothing, for horror decor. Guys and girls, they like to look, they want to find out about new art. They want to find out about video games, comic books. So everything that's horror related, besides, it doesn't have to just be horror films. So we try to cover the whole gamut, and I also try to do it in a really beautiful way. So I really like our when you look at our magazine, it's photo quality paper. I mean, it's just gorgeous. We've actually had Lloyd Kaufman picked it up and was just like, this is stunning. This is one of the most beautiful, magazines I've ever seen that's horror related. So we try to create more of like a beautiful art and lifestyle magazine for the horror enthusiasts, but still, speaking to people that are, really into gore and even like the campy, sexy feel of, kind of old school horror. So I feel like when you pick it up, it's a lot different than what you're going to see from Rue Morgue or Fangoria, and it's beautiful in its own right.
Now, you had mentioned conventions and things like that, comic book fests. Kind of talk about what it's like going out there to present Living Dead magazine and what has, of course you mentioned Lloyd, but kind of tell everyone what the response has been at the conventions.
We've had a really good response because it is a type of thing that until you see the magazine in person, people don't really realize how impressive it is to read and to look at. And we put a lot into it, and it's an expensive magazine for us to make, and it shows when you pick it up. So people have just been, really receptive. Fans love it. Every single, we had Sid Haig and Danny Trejo, all pick it up and just love the magazine. So it's been really popular, and we're only on the third issue, and I know it's just going to get bigger and better.
Now, what have you found to be the most challenging aspect of actually producing and promoting your own horror-themed magazine?
I think the hardest part is just trying to, until somebody looks at it again, they don't quite understand how it's different than any other horror magazine, and they don't quite understand the quality and just a lot that's put into this magazine. So it's trying to get that across to people, to get them to subscribe. That can be difficult. And just not having always the funding for for the marketing and advertising that you really want to do to get the name out there.
Yeah, I mean,
but otherwise,
that's always...
I have a really, really good team, so the staff is so easy to work with. Everybody's amazing. I mean, we all are doing this for free because we just love it. So I'm lucky to have that. I haven't had any problems doing the magazine. It's really just coming up the money and promoting it.
Now, since you had brought up the staff, kind of tell everyone about some of the other writers that are writing for the magazine.
Sure. So of course we have you, Michael, which we're so happy to have on board because you know so much about horror and you do wonderful interviews, everything from interviews to reviews. I know you do a lot of band reviews, so I'm looking forward to hopefully getting you to do more of that.
We as long as it's metal, I got you covered.
Exactly, which is my favorite, so I'm good with that. We also are lucky to have a large variety of people right now that are columnists. We have a paranormal expert right now. Her name's ZG. So she's going to be doing a paranormal piece for us each issue. We also have some great old school and new school horror enthusiasts that are really into doing the celeb interviews and doing some movie reviews. We also just partnered with IndieHorror.tv, so they're going to be having a spread each issue where they're talking about what indie horror movies they're going to be putting out on their own channel. So they'll be doing that each issue. So, yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff going on. We also have somebody that does a comic book review each issue. We're adding more book reviews. We always have really hot photo shoots that we do because we have our own models on staff. So yeah, we just have a really great variety, and I'm really happy with where the magazine is heading.
Now, of course, as you look towards the future, are you looking to expand into having the magazines in stores? Do you just want to have it available through your site? What are the plans for potential expansion on something like that?
Yeah, I really want to distribute it into as many stores as possible. It's, because it's brand new, it does take a little while to kind of get the name out there and get people interested. But we do have it currently, they're all local, but we do currently have the magazine in 3 local stores. Nice. When I go down to LA, when I'll be moving down there soon, I know it'll be able to expand a lot further because LA has a lot more stores and places that are interested in horror magazines. So, really, besides just going into some, different stores, even like 7-Elevens or Barnes & Noble, I really wanted to take the magazine and turn it into something where we can build it into our own horror convention. I mean, that's kind of the way to go now is, being able to do your own horror convention, take it off of the, magazine, spread it into something big, be able to do our own events, host different nights. So I really have grand schemes for the magazine and the brand.
Okay, well, we've got about 3 minutes left, 2-3 minutes left. Let me ask you this. Since you basically have to have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the horror community, what would you say the biggest trend in the horror community is right now?
I think as far as in the horror community, if it doesn't have to do with film, I think horror conventions are a huge trend. I mean, they're just getting larger and larger and more. If we're talking about horror film, I think that B-movies and Grindhouse are really coming back in a huge way. And I'm excited to see, what people like, Lloyd Kaufman and Troma are going to be putting out soon again because they're really making a big comeback. So,
oh, yeah. Yeah,
so I think horror conventions and B-movies and Grindhouse films are really big right now.
Well, I would definitely agree with you. Well, before I let you go, do you want to give everyone website address, Facebook info, where they can order the magazine?
Yeah, you can. So you can find us on Facebook, of course. We're under Living Dead Magazine. You can also find us on Twitter, Living Dead Mag. We're on Tumblr, same name. You can find our website at www.livingdeadmagazine.com, where you can buy any issues of our magazine as well as a yearly subscription. And our next issue will be coming out in May.
Very nice. Deanna, thank you for coming on. You know you're always welcome on. I'll be talking to you later this week, of course, to get those articles to you. But like I said, you're always welcome to come on. And if we ever have any news, we will post it on Horror Society.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure. We love you guys.
Not a problem. Thank you. And once again, everyone, that was Living Dead Magazine creator, the Mind Machine, Deanna Uutela. I said it right that time. Coming up, we're going to have our feature interview with Mark Torgl, the original Melvin of the Toxic Avenger and the upcoming Toxic Tutu. But now we're going to move into the first song in our Metal Blade Spotlight. The name of the band is Demonical. The name of the album is Darkness Unbound. And the song is King of All. And that was Demonical off of the album Darkness Unbound. The name of the song was King of All. There'll be more coming up in our Metal Blade Spotlight after we have our feature-length interview with Mark Torgl. Mark, how you doing?
Really? Is that you?
It is me.
Really, Michael?
It is the dead man. It is I. How are you? I have to say straight out the gate, it is a great honor to have you on the show. You know, the Toxic Avenger. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to do it. I'm doing the media circuit these days for the first time ever, really, because I'm trying to promote a movie that we have in production everywhere I go and to all the conventions I go to, which is Toxic Tutu.
That's right, and we are going to go very heavily into Toxic Tutu. But I feel like when interviewing you, we have to start all the way at the beginning. And what a lot of people may not realize is the Toxic Avenger was not your first film. Now, that was your second film for Trauma Entertainment. Your first film was in 1983. You played Dwayne in the first Turn On. Can you kind of tell everyone how you first got involved with Trauma and how the first Turn On became your first acting role?
Absolutely. I was a film student at New York University. Trauma is a New York-based, very independent film company. And they actually put up a job notice on the NYU job board that said, "Come work on a real film, you students, and you can see what it's all about." Well, Trauma films aren't really all that real, but I went ahead and called them up and went down. They had this funky brownstone way on the west side of New York. They had a whole building. I went to the office and met Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Herz, and I went in for my interview to work on a real film, and sat down with them. And Lloyd was like, "Oh, you're NYU, huh? What do you want to do on this film?" And I was like, "Well, what kind of film is it?" He was like, "Oh, it's a real good film. It's, teenage, sexy, comedy. You're going to have a lot of fun. What do you want to do on it?" I was like, "Okay. Well, I would kind of like to be the script supervisor because then I get to work with the director." And Lloyd was like, "Well, that's me. You can be the script supervisor. Fine, that's great. What else do you want to do?" And I was like, okay. Well, I'm a film student, and I like the creative side of things, so I'd like to help with the writing if it isn't all written. And they're like, "Oh, there's plenty of stuff to write. You can help write some additional scenes. Really good. What else do you want to do?" And I was like, okay, this is some film company, and this is some interview. I should have said, "I want to direct," and he probably would have said, "You can help direct. That's great." That's
the funny thing is I can hear Lloyd's voice the whole time you're doing this too. That's the funny thing.
Well,
now,
I've actually spent a lot of time with Lloyd lately, so right. I've gotten his voice down pretty good. So I went to work on the first Turn On in the crew.
Now, initially, you weren't supposed to be acting in it, were you? Didn't you take over your role because someone didn't show up?
That's right. Typically, in any Trauma movie, if you're on the crew, you will end up in the movie somewhere. Now, this particular role of Dwayne was the camp counselor's boyfriend, and it was a rather large role. It wasn't just a cameo. It was several scenes and several big scenes. And we were all set. Like I said, I was working as the script supervisor. And the day of the shoot, when the actor that was supposed to play Dwayne was supposed to come, he never showed up. And we're sitting around waiting. Lloyd and Michael were trying to figure out what to do because this was a pretty big part. And finally, Lloyd looked at me and said, there and do it. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. Now, I had some acting experience when I was younger in high school and undergraduate school. So it was something that I jumped right into with pleasure because I've always loved acting. And, in fact, I've been acting like an idiot since I was a little kid. So it came quite naturally. And there were some classic scenes in that movie that are still playing on YouTube, and Lloyd talks about the infamous dinner scene all the time, which probably has the worst table manners of any scene in any movie ever shot, and that was all me. So
now the following year, of course, 1984, The Toxic Avenger. Now I've read in other interviews where they brought in almost 200 people to audition, and they finally turned to one another and said they needed you. Basically, it's not the same character, but you see a lot of the same characteristics of Dwayne from the first turn on. So I mean, what were your thoughts on playing Melvin in The Toxic Avenger?
Well, definitely the part of Dwayne was a very social outcast, nerdish type character, and that is what I've heard, too. When they were casting Toxic Avenger the following year, they had auditioned hundreds of kids to play Melvin the Mopboy, the social outcast, almost retarded nerd. And they eventually called me up, what I heard was Lloyd and Michael were discussing it. They didn't see anybody they liked, and they were like, what we really want is what Mark did last year as the Dwayne character, or something similar to that. And they called me up and asked me if I wanted the role. They said I wouldn't even have to audition. If I wanted it, it was mine. And I jumped at it. I thought, great, And, they told me about the movie, and it sounded pretty cool, horror spoof sort of movie. And that I would be playing a similar character, the mop boy that turns into the monster. I was like, wow, okay. And I didn't even have to audition for it. So they just brought me on. The funny thing is I was still in film school, and I was like, okay, I'll do it, but can I be the script supervisor as well? Which was really kind of stupid in hindsight because I had plenty of just the acting. And they're like, of course you can. So, I mean, it was good because I was actually there for the entire shoot and not just, the pre-monster scene. So I got to witness, the entire film, being the script supervisor and being Melvin. It was great. And, the rest is history. It turned into a huge cult film. And I'm still living with it. I've got a life that will never end. So
are you surprised to this day that the Toxic Avenger has stuck with people like it has?
Well, I mean, I know that the fan base is pretty rabid and pretty serious about this film. I didn't really realize quite how big it was until I started doing these monster conventions a year ago, and the fans that came out were just, they were either really excited or really nervous to meet me, and it was really cool. Like I would always, throughout the years, get fan letters, but not a whole lot, and I would always gladly sign them and send them back. I used to get recognized a lot on the street, and by saying a lot, it's not like Brad Pitt. It's like every once in a while somebody would recognize me a little bit. But the great thing is the people that did recognize me were huge fans, and it was always exciting, to see the excitement that they had to meet me. So when I started doing these monster conventions, it just opened up a whole new world for me to realize what was out there.
Right. And we're definitely going to touch on the conventions. But now I just wanted to hear this directly from you because, again, I've seen this attributed to you in several interviews and stuff. Was working with the goat, or was it a goat or a sheep? I think it was a sheep, wasn't it?
Yeah, with a sheep.
Was that really the worst part out of everything that happened on that film set? Was that really the worst part about working on the Toxic Avenger?
Well, I'll tell you, because what happened when the lights came on, I had not seen the sheep before we filmed the scene, or at least I had not seen it close up. And of course, when we filmed the scene, it's dark out by the pool, the lights go up, and basically I'm like kissing on the sheep. Right. So the lights went up, and I opened my eyes, and I knew I was supposed to be sickened and aghast at what I saw, but what I saw was all these huge bugs crawling all over the sheep, hopping around, disgusting, I don't know what they were, gnats or fleas or whatever they were. And it really it really took me by surprise because, I'm supposed to be kissing this thing.
Right.
And it actually helped with the scene because it literally almost made me sick when I just opened my eyes and saw all these bugs crawling around, the sheep that was like inches from my face.
It's true what they say. Never work with animals.
What's that?
I said it's true what they say. Never work with animals.
Yeah. Well,
I had to work with a dead.
He was in that scene too.
Well, I mean there is that. I had to work with a dead rabbit once, and it was terrible. But now we all know how IMDb is, and sometimes it lists stuff that you're in, and sometimes it lists stuff that you're not. But according to your IMDb and the research that I was able to do, after the Toxic Avenger, you basically, it looks like you left the industry for about 16 years. And you returned in Citizen Toxie, the Toxic Avenger 4.
That's right. Well,
can you tell us?
I was going to film school, so I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be a director or a writer. I ended up moving to Hollywood shortly after Toxic Avenger and started working in post-production, which I am still doing, actually, as an editor and, different television shows and reality shows and a couple of sitcoms as well. But I was always interested in acting. I just never wanted to pursue it. So if anybody, pursued me and wanted me to be in something, I was always game for it. Now, Troma actually wanted me to be in 2 and 3, and I had already been living in Los Angeles, and we had these discussions. I think they said they would have, flown me out there. I think they said, and you can sleep up in our offices. But I had started a job at a post-production company, and I was like, and I think, they needed me for like a week. And I was like, well, guys, I think I would like to do that, but I need to get paid. Troma is notorious, that's not the Troma way. Paying people is not the Troma way. It's always for the experience. So I had my experience with 2 movies of theirs, and now I just asked to get paid, and they were like, well, that's not really the way we do things. And I was like, oh, just, give me something, give me $100. And they thought about it for a while, and I think they came back and said, well, we'll give you $50. And I said, you know what, guys? I was like, I don't think I can do it for that. I don't think I can, come back for that. And also, they sent me the script, and I actually wasn't really crazy about the scripts for, they were doing 2 and 3 at the same time. And so it kind of all fell through, and I never did it. And Lloyd actually has a book called Everything I Know About Filmmaking I Learned from the Toxic Avenger. And
great book.
The comment he made about that whole scenario was the biggest mistake he ever made, and I think he said, was that I wouldn't pay Mark Torgl $50 to be in Toxic Avenger 2 and 3. And he was like, that was the biggest mistake he ever made in filmmaking, his filmmaking career. and which, I'm sure a lot of that was, not completely true. He almost killed somebody in the car scene in Toxic Avenger.
Right.
But it was kind of nice to have that in print, and so I didn't do it. And then when they were making Toxic Avenger 4, which was many years later, they called me up to see if I would, come and be evil Melvin, and I just said yes immediately, just to do it for the fun of it.
Sure.
I still didn't get it, but but they did fly me out there and put me up in a hotel at least. So.
Well, there you go. Now, 5 years after that, you stepped outside of Troma and you worked on it looks like it was a direct-to-video film called Beast, where you play Beast. What can you tell us about Beast and your experience on that film?
Okay. Have you ever seen Beast?
No. I was not able to track it down in between contacting you and having you on the show.
I think I've never seen it either, and I think the reason is it doesn't exist. That was a film that I met the director at a signing that Lloyd was at in Los Angeles, and I joined him kind of unexpectedly. And he saw me in the audience, and he brought me up, where he was talking to the crowd. It was in a video store. And this guy came by that was directing Beast and asked if, I would be interested in being in this movie. And I said, okay, it sounds cool. It sounded, kind of Troma-esque and wacky. And then I never heard from this guy again. So, but he did put it on TV, and I might have an answer for you.
I might have an answer for you on that. I was just doing a little bit more research on it to see if I could find it on DVD. I have someone on here who says it was never fully finished due to soundtrack. The guy said he had worked on it, and the film had tech trouble. He does not know what to do with the final product because Gary, I guess the gentleman who made the film, has passed away.
Oh, well, that's sad.
So the rights from what it sounds like the rights are up in the air. I had a film I worked on where the producer died, and the rights are still up on the air. So yeah, that's probably what happened to it.
Yeah. So I never acted in it. So but I know that. Still listed it on IMDb in it, and I've never bothered to change it. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it was on there as a curiosity, and I certainly couldn't track it down. So I thought I'd straight up ask you.
Yep, you're the first one that ever asked me.
Well, I mean, hey, I do my research, man. I want people to know about you and know everything that's going on. So.
I do that.
2008, you went back to Troma, and I have to admit to you, I have not seen this either. Super Tromette action movie Go. You play reaction guy. What can you tell me about this one?
That's one I actually am in. It's not really a Troma film. It was by this woman, Jen Lotto, I believe her name was a huge Toxic Avenger fan, and we were Facebook friends for a really long time. In fact, at that time, I think it was MySpace fans. And we kept in touch, and she was a huge fan and a huge Toxic Avenger fan. And she was making this movie, and in New England or someplace. And I sent in footage of myself so that she could put it in the movie. And the footage was basically, I think I was supposed to be watching I was outside in a park, and I was supposed to be watching a couple having sex or something like that, and I was basically being the nerdish Mark and, chewing on the tree and, humping the tree or something. So, I've never seen that one either, but I'm pretty sure that one exists. And I
haven't been able to track that one down either. Now, last week, I had on a bunch of the people from Return of Nukem High Volume 1. I had Asta on, I had, Clay on, I had a bunch of the guys on. And, of course, they're going to be in Return to Nukem High Volume 2, which you are also in. Now, this is the only film on your IMDb credits that does not list a character name or anything like that. Now, I know you can't give away too much, but do you have a big role in the film?
No,
is Melvin here?
It's a very small role. When I started the convention circuit, one of the things I started doing was showing up with Troma, who was inviting me to come along to their booths at this different conventions, and it was Comic-Con, San Diego a year ago, and they were like, well, can we do a scene with you for Return to Nukem High? And I was like, of course, we'll do it. And so it was something we did, right there at the convention with a group of other characters that are in the movie. And it's not giving anything away to tell you. Basically, we were just all imploding, and a lot of goo and goop was flying everywhere. So very silly, very quick scene.
Okay. Well, looking at it over the years. I can't wait to see it. I absolutely
Part one, so I thought it was really good.
Here. Yeah. I absolutely adored Return to Nukem High, so I cannot wait to see the second one.
Yeah, me too.
But you go all the way back to the 80s working on Troma films. You go from 83 to 2014, 31 years.
Yeah.
What was the same about working on a Troma film, and what has changed about working on a Troma film in that time frame?
Well, I can relate it mostly to Toxic Avenger 4, where I played evil Melvin, because that was more of I was in a pretty big scene where I am birthed out of the good Toxie's stomach, and we have this whole scene together. And it was very similar to what I remember in the 80s. A lot of kids that are passionate about film. Of course, now there are a lot of kids that are passionate about horror because, that's typically now what Troma does. And when I went there to do that scene, what was really great was all of the kids that were working on the movie knew I was coming. They were huge fans. It was just a big love fest. And but nothing changes. None of them were really getting paid, but everyone was just doing it for the love of film. And the nice thing about it at that point was Troma actually had their own fans. Troma was pretty new, when I did Toxic Avenger and the first turn on. I think they had done one other film before the first turn on, Squeeze Play. I'm not sure if they did another one before that. So it's not like people really knew Troma, and they got a reputation later for being, very, very, very independent, which is something I really respect. In no way is it like a Hollywood film shoot, and it never will be. And Lloyd is so against it ever being Hollywood. He wants independence. He wants to do things that are going to be shocking and over the top, and things that you just will never see on a real Hollywood movie. So nothing changes with Troma. Getting back to your question, and it never will. It will always be the same. He's always going to have that same formula, and I respect that.
Oh, certainly. Now, the last half of the interview, we're going to go completely into Toxic Tutu, but I wanted to ask you this, since you worked with Lloyd back in, basically the beginning. I had asked Asta and everyone else that was on last week, Lloyd is definitely the voice of the truly independent cinema. And you look at everything he's done over the years and that Troma has done over the years. Would you feel like it's out of line to say, with everything that Lloyd and Troma has done in the filming community, is it out of place to think that Lloyd should one day be nominated for a Lifetime Achievement Award from Hollywood?
Well, I think it would be awesome because I look at Lloyd. He's really almost a genius, if not a genius, in his sensibilities and his humor. And I'm a big fan of surreal films. Like Buñuel and Fellini and, just kind of over-the-top, unusual films that just are cutting edge and different. And that's what Lloyd does. So I would, hope, I mean, he will be the first to tell you he'll never get a Lifetime Achievement, Academy Award. But I think he should. And, I see him more as an artist, I guess. And I'm not even sure, what community would give him that award. But he actually just did an appearance in Los Angeles and Santa Monica that was a Cinematheque appearance, and they were honoring him for his 30 years of film independence, which was really nice. And I actually went there with him, and it was also a Troma film marathon. They showed 4 films, starting with Toxic Avenger, and then they did Nukem High, the first one, and then they did Romeo and Juliet, and then they did Nukem High, Return to Nukem High. I joined Lloyd, and I was happy to voice the virtues of how I felt about him. And we spoke to the theater crowd before the first movie, and then after Toxic Avenger, and then after Nukem High. And it's always nice to be in a crowd of Troma fans, and they always love everything that you talk about. But so he kind of got honored there. It would be nice to have an honor, some kind of Lifetime Achievement, but it's probably unlikely.
Let's move on to Toxic Tutu, because that's why I have you on. How did the concept for Toxic Tutu first come about?
Okay. Well, as you know, I've pretty much disappeared from acting for all those years. And almost a year ago, or actually a little longer than a year ago, I got a call out of the blue on my home phone, which is almost like my junk phone. I give all the businesses that number, and I hardly ever answer it. I got this call, and for some reason I picked it up. And it was this guy, Evan, who runs the Mad Monster Party, which is a big con, a big monster con in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, it's about 2.5 hours from my house.
Oh, nice. And he started telling me, first of all, he was like, is this Mark Torgl? And I was like, yeah, who's calling? And he got really excited. Like, he couldn't believe that I actually picked up the phone and, he had gotten my phone number, So he was like, listen, I run this monster convention in Charlotte every year. It's really great. We'd like you to come. He's like, you have a lot of fans, and they actually have requested you. And he was like, have you ever done one? And I was like, I had never done one. I was like, no, I've never done one. I said, I know they exist, but I've never really had the opportunity. I've always been busy. And he was like, well, listen, if you would come, we will totally set you up. We'll fly you out. We'll put you up. We'll set up your booth. We'll have pictures that you can autograph and sell. You can make a lot of money. And I said, well, send me some information and let me think about it. And he kind of did it again in an email and made it sound so appealing. I agreed to do it. And I have, from my film school days, a good friend of mine that I went to film school with, Joe Nardelli, I told him about it. He was, well, hell, let's videotape it. Let's make a movie. Let's make a documentary. It'll be awesome. And so that's how Toxic Tutu came to life. And when we went to Charlotte, along the way, before we got there, we were like, well, let's even make it more exciting, and let's create a fictional story to go along with the convention. And so we created this fictional story that was kind of like whatever became, actually the through line is whatever became of the Toxic Avengers Mark Torgl, the almost true story, with the almost true story being the main line. And so we created this fictional story, and we started shooting right there in Charlotte at the convention. We grabbed Toxic Avenger fans, told them, we're doing this movie. And it kind of just evolved. We really didn't know what we were starting, but it really turned into something really special, especially since so many of my fans were so into it and wanted to be in it. And we filmed these cool scenes in the hotel and at the convention. And once we started, it was like a snowball that just couldn't stop rolling. And I went on to do 3 other conventions. I did, Comic-Con, I did Stanley's Kamikaze, and Days of the Dead LA, and we just continued filming and also doing more scenes outside of the convention. But the convention circuit is really our backdrop, and we've just been having a blast making this movie for really no money whatsoever. And it continues. We've probably got about 70% of it done. And we're just, like I said, it's all a labor of love. Everyone that's working on it, our Toxic Avenger fans, everyone that's in it, our Toxic Avenger fans, and it's just really going great. We have an Indiegogo campaign right now because we've run out of our own money, and we're trying to do some big special effects scenes in Los Angeles in May, and bigger scenes than we've shot already, and they require insurance and legal stuff, and it's like, oh God, we need real to do this. So that's what happened, and it's really turned into something that I think we didn't really expect, but it's really going well, and our story just keeps getting better.
Now, since you brought up the Indiegogo, and whenever I have filmmakers on who utilize Kickstarter and Indiegogo, I wanted to ask you, how much do you feel that Indiegogo and Kickstarter have impacted the independent film genre, in particular horror films like what you're trying to do?
Well, it's interesting, and it's not easy either. It's almost a full-time job to keep this campaign alive. But I think what's nice is when somebody really has a unique idea, and especially in the horror realm, there are enough fans out there that can sort of look at the trailer, read the little synopsis, see what they can get for their contribution, and because of their love, especially for horror films, they can become a part of it. And in our Indiegogo, for a very small donation, they will have a credit. They will have their names in the credit. They can get a part in the film for $250, which is, a cameo type thing. So it's really, it's a labor of love. It's they're kind of strange, these fundraising platforms. And I know there are bigger Hollywood filmmakers that sometimes do this. I'm like, well, why do they need to do this? It's like it seems like they would.
And I was going to ask you your thoughts on that, because that's come up a lot too. And I'm not picking on anyone, but the Jessica Mars movie, Spike Lee going on there. These people have the money to make these films.
Exactly.
And I was wondering what your thought. Do you think with Hollywood doing that kind of thing, do you think that's going to ruin Indiegogo and Kickstarter for the independent filmmakers such as yourself?
Well, I think it definitely has an effect on it. I mean, I'm not sure if these fundraiser platforms can go on forever, or if people will get bored with them or whatever. But yeah, I mean, when you see the bigger Hollywood production films, going in that direction, it's almost like we're only asking in hours for 7,000 something, which is what we figured would take to shoot these special effects scenes, which is really nothing in the film world. Now, I think Spike Lee got over $1 million or close to $2 million.
Veronica Mars raised an ungodly amount of money.
Yeah, and of course, that those are the ones that people recognize. They recognize the names, they recognize the stars, and it might be more fun for them involved in something like that they know will really get finished. And maybe it's a risk for some of these low budget things, but I think it's more interesting to get involved in something low budget, shoestring, where it wouldn't get done without some kind of funding like this. The Hollywood movies, they'll get done no matter what, but to be able to contribute to something like ours, Toxic Tutu, it's almost like they can say, yeah, I helped make that movie, really, and it was just awesome. They'll be in the credits. They can be in the movie. It's I think it's a strange world, and I'm living it and trying hard to keep it going. It's stalled a little bit. I think we had a 45-day campaign, and I think we've got about 20 days left. And we've still got about 3,500 or something, or 4,000 to raise. But the nice thing about Indiegogo is you get to keep whatever you do raise.
And try again.
Yeah. And like I said, this is only going to get our film in the can, and we'll have to seek other ways to actually do the post and the distribution and everything else. So.
Well, I'm certainly going to put an article up on Horror Society, sending people to the Indiegogo. So hopefully that'll help generate some funds for the project as well.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Oh, it's absolutely not a problem. Now, a lot of people I know are probably going to wonder this. Are there, because you're talking about characters created by Troma and Lloyd Kaufman, is this a Troma production in any way? Did you have to get permission from Troma, to bring up Toxic Avenger references and things like that? Or was Lloyd straight on board and said, let's just do it?
Well, I'll tell you, Lloyd is actually in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gotten nothing but positive reinforcement from them and support. We talked to them early on before we started any of this, because in our Indiegogo campaign, we've actually got some shots from the Toxic Avenger, so we wanted to make sure they were cool with us doing that. And Lloyd actually loves the idea, and not only that, he contributed to the Indiegogo campaign $250, which is a role in the film. So he's been nothing but supportive, and in a way, I feel like I finally got paid for Toxic Avenger through that contribution.
Now, you had talked about this is the first time that you've been on the convention circuit, and of course you're filming Toxic Tutu at the same time. We'll break this down into several questions. It'll make it easier. One, since you had never gone and participated in one, were you shocked at how big these conventions are? And, how big was the response for you being your first convention?
Yeah, I was shocked. Like I said, the first one I did was at the Mad Monster Party, and these guys do such a great convention. I was there with Gary Busey and other big stars that were there in the horror genre, and the fans that came out, it was just like I was flabbergasted, and I couldn't believe that it was such an event for these people. And the fact that it was all horror-related made it even better. So when I did the first one, of course, I didn't really know what to expect, but I quickly learned that it's really kind of all about just being there for the fans. And and that's why they come. They come to meet you. And I quickly learned that I was loving meeting them. And we started interviewing a lot of these fans for the movie right there. And a lot of it was like, where do you think Mark has been for 30 years? And some of them were like real live answers. Some of them we gave them little stories, fictional movie? And, oh, I thought he was dead, or I thought he ran away with the sheep, or, things like that. So, after I got my feet wet, I quickly, and we realized we needed to keep going to continue making our film. And that's actually when I contacted Lloyd, because I knew they were going to be at Comic-Con. And he was like, yeah, come and be at our booth. I told him about the film we were making. That's where we shot the scenes with him initially. And I did Comic-Con, which was crazy. And, just so huge, mind-boggling huge. Once you get out of your booth, it's so hard to even walk around.
Wow.
But the popularity of it was unbelievable. And, Troma had their booth, and they had the Troma team there, and they were selling DVDs, and Lloyd was there signing autographs, and I was signing autographs. And that's also where we filmed the scene for Return to Nukem High. So it was just a blast. And we just kept going. We went to Days of the Dead, Los Angeles, did more filming, and then we did a huge amount of filming at Stanley's Kamikaze. And, now I feel like I'm hooked, like I want to keep doing it, even though I feel like we've almost got enough footage at the conventions themselves. But it's sort of something, once you get your feet wet with it, it's just so cool to be around all that madness and the love of the fans. I'm originally from Detroit, and I'm going to go to Troma Dance Detroit in June.
Nice.
And that should be fun, too. So, it's like I think I'm probably going to keep this up as long as, the love is out there for it all, and I can get by. I'm trying to juggle a real job at the same time. But these conventions are usually weekends, so it's
right.
possible. So yeah, I'm hooked up.
Now let me ask you this: now doing the autograph signings and stuff,
what was the most bizarre thing you were asked to autograph so far? Because I know you've been asked to have autographed some weird shit.
Well, I've autographed the body parts, which is always fun. I've autographed several breasts, a butt, a back. Probably the most unusual, somebody actually brought a mop. They were a janitor. And they brought their mop, and they were also a huge Toxic Avenger fan. And so I signed the mop, and then we posed with our mops, and that was, the most fun. People are always bringing action figures and huge posters and old T-shirts, from the original movie. But I think it's either the breasts or the mop was, my favorite thing to sign.
Now, with you being new to the convention circuit, of course you're not new to filming. You know what goes into that. Did you find it to be, once you started doing the convention and the filming, at any point did you feel overwhelmed, like, oh my God, I may have, doing it during a convention may be a bit more than what I thought, or was it actually easier than what you thought it would be?
It can always be crazy, whenever you're making a movie. There are always unexpected occurrences, and especially when you're doing it for basically no money, you never really know what to expect. But the conventions themselves were pretty easy because everybody at the conventions, the organizers, were always very supportive of us filming, and we always made sure it was cool to do that. And they were always very good. Now, when we're trying to film some of these other scenes, fictional scenes, outside of the convention, we ran into some difficulties. We actually filmed a scene. We went back to New Jersey, and we looked for a chemical waste site. And we kind of, looked on Google Earth and saw some things that looked like they would work. and we had a crew and we had some actors, and we just winged it, guerrilla style. We didn't have any permits, and we found this chemical like lagoon, which was perfect for what we needed. Part of the story of Toxic Tutu is why I've been hiding for 30 years, and it's without giving too much away. It's because we're saying something happened on the original set of the Toxic Avenger that people are either, and it's a mystery, but people think either something disfigured me and I've been hiding, or something magical happened, and that's why I'm hiding, because if it gets out, it could have devastating consequences. So we found this chemical site, and it was actually perfect for what we were looking for. Of course, there was a big sign that said no trespassing when we went in, and we were like,
filmmakers, we don't ever let those things stop us, man. We both know this.
So we started doing our scene, which was basically I was trying to gather some of the water from this swamp, and as we were doing it, some guy in an SUV pulled up and was like, "What's going on here? What are you guys doing?" We're like, "Oh, we're just doing a little independent film." He was like, "You can't be here. I'm calling the police," and he took off. We're like, "Oh, he's going to call the police." And we're like, "What, should we take off?" Or he was like, "Just leave now, and I'm calling the police." So we started to leave, but then we found this other area that was a little further away, but even better than where we were, and we said, "Fuck it, let's just keep filming." And we started doing the scene, and we actually had pretty much completed it. It was pretty simple, and we were finishing up the scene, and all of a sudden there are three huge, like, white SUVs speeding towards us, and we were like, "Oh shit, here it comes." And these cars pulled up, and they were like, they got out. "What the hell is going on here? This is private property. No one's allowed here." And we were like, "Oh, we're just, we're filming. What do you can't do that?" And these were like, kind of 20, 30-year-old guys from New Jersey. And so I said, "You know what? Let me try something here." And I said, "Hey, have you guys ever seen The Toxic Avenger?" And they were like, "Well, of course, we're from New Jersey. Of course we've seen The Toxic Avenger." And I'm like, that's me. I'm Melvin. And they were like, "Oh, my God." And suddenly they were best friends. They were like, not going to arrest us. They were like getting autographs, shaking our hands. They're like, "I don't know about you using this footage. You better try and ask for it." But, it ended up just being that they were awesome and so cool about it. So we went from being arrested to like this love fest because they were Toxic Avenger fans.
That's just awesome to hear. Now you've worn a lot of hats during your career. Actor, editor. Just all the things that you've done. What do you find to be the most challenging aspect overall of working on Toxic Tutu?
Really, the most challenging thing is that we don't have the support of a production, of a producer and a production company, and so we're financing the whole thing ourselves, and that's what makes it really difficult because the director, my partner, and I have basically spent like all our money doing this.
Right.
So that's, usually whenever I've been working on something, it's been somebody else's money. That's definitely the most challenging part of it. And, just not, we're doing it for the love of it. We don't really expect to become wealthy off of this, nor do we even know if we'll make anything. But
sure.
We're doing it for the love of film and the love of independence. and just going, trying to get whatever we can, through our relatives, through our friends, to keep moving on and getting this in the can. And I think once we get it in the can, once we film these final scenes, it'll be a lot easier because then maybe we can actually raise some money from a financial type situation through investors. But we're all new to it, so it's all kind of scary, that whole business end of things. When I'm really a creative person, trying to deal with, the business aspects of filmmaking can be very frustrating to me and very scary.
I mean, I can certainly understand that. Now, of course, people are going to want to know, since you're talking about continuing on, to do more conventions and things like this. And I know it's early in the game, and you're not finished with this one, but could this set up for a second one?
We definitely have that in mind, and the ending that we're talking about definitely has the potential for sequel. So yeah, that's something, especially if this is successful, I can leave my editing job and just be a filmmaker, which is really what I've always wanted to be anyway. So yes, we're definitely doing this with that in mind. We're trying to get some other sort of name people involved, and it's looking good, although I don't want to say who that might be just because nobody has definitely signed on. There's just been interest. So, yeah, we want to continue. We want to, make this, a continuing thing. I don't know, if, there is a possibility that Troma could end up distributing this. We haven't asked them for that because we're just trying to get it done, and we don't want to waste any favors that we might have with Troma, especially since they've been so supportive. But that's always a possibility, and Lloyd has been so supportive, and one of the things he said recently was, go support Toxic Tutu. I'm not making it, so it'll be good.
Again, I can hear Lloyd saying something like that. That sounds so Lloyd.
Yeah.
Well, it's so nice to see, you played a role that was a pivotal role in the cult film of cult films. People can say whatever they want, but the Toxic Avenger has such a huge following worldwide, from all walks of life. And it's kind of nice to see you doing something to, give tribute to yourself and to the film, I'm sure because they tie hand in hand. What do you feel like is the ultimate mark that the Toxic Avenger has left on our generation? And, what do you hope that Toxic Tutu does to not only elevate itself, but help to bring the Toxic Avenger more into the spotlight than what it already is?
Well, I think that this will definitely tie into that and help the Toxic Avenger, and vice versa. Of course, get our film seen from people wanting to know what this is all about. It's really interesting. When I did this tribute to Lloyd at Cinematech 2 weekends ago, it was the first time I had seen Toxic Avenger on the big screen in a long time. And I'd always loved it for its sort of satire and cartoonish, over-the-top sort of craziness. And, I think that's what the fans love about it, too, because it's not your typical horror film. And Lloyd calls it a satire.
Right.
And it's, it's making fun of itself. And when I saw it on the big screen for the first time in a long time, maybe the first time I really enjoyed watching my performance. And because I'd always been kind of uneasy watching myself, in that kind of situation. But I really was enjoying it, and you know, after the film, there were actors in the audience, and I guess they're Toxic Avenger fans who are trying to be actors, and they're like, "Oh, we just loved, you know, where you were taking that with your character, and we loved the choices you were making, you know, the acting choices." And you know, when I was making it, I was just thinking, you know, trauma over the top. That's what, you know, that's like our motivation.
Right.
So I'm hoping that this will draw new attention to Toxic Avenger. I'm hoping we'll have an instant audience, you know, with Toxic Tutu. You know,
sure.
Also Hollywood is actually making a remake, a big budget Toxic Avenger, and which is really kind of crazy because I'm still not sure how they're going to do that since it's such a campy type. For a while, John Travolta was going to be in it, then Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think they have since both dropped out. But it's a Lionsgate film. Steve Pink is the director, and I've actually told Lloyd, because they're still involved, like as an associate producer. I was like, I'd love to be in the remake. You know, I could be Melvin's dad. And Lloyd was like, that is such an awesome idea, and we're going to try and make that happen. So I think it would really be cool. I think, you know, if every one of your fans, of your people, you know, call Lionsgate and say, put Mark Torgl in this film, it could actually happen. But
hey,
it's been in the
I'll sign it. I'll sign it right now.
It's been in the
Well, I
works
wanted to ask you about this. What are your thoughts on the 30th anniversary edition of the Toxic Avenger Blu-ray coming up?
Well, I think it's going to be awesome.
I'm assuming you'll be on the special feature somewhere?
Okay, since you brought it up, there is going to be something. Lloyd asked me to do something. He was like, but he also said, don't tell anybody. So that
okay, you don't have to give me details.
So there is something special. And,
nice.
Yeah, it's really funny. And it was something I came up with, so I can't wait to see it. And Troma was really happy. So we're helping each other out here, is what's going on. They're helping us,
and that's nice to see.
And I'm helping them in any way they can. They always love it when I show up at the conventions with them, because they get more of a turnout of people, you know, to buy the DVDs and their products. So it's all good.
Well, my fans won't forgive me if I don't ask this. Should there be another Troma-released Toxic Avenger movie? Will you be in it?
There is going to be another one. Lloyd is busy writing it. Toxic Avenger 5. And somebody asked that question at the Cinematech screening, and we were talking about it, and I said, Lloyd, is there a role in there for me? And he was like, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm all for it. You know, at this point, you know, it's like I said, it's all for the of Toxic Avenger and Troma, and we're just helping each other out in any way we can.
Well, it's just so great to hear. Look, right before the end of the interview, you know, do you want to give website addresses so people can follow you on Facebook, Twitter, the Indiegogo, anything you want to give out? Please do so.
Well, the Indiegogo, if you go to Indiegogo and just search for Toxic Tutu, that's the best way to find our Indiegogo project. I have a fan page on Facebook, facebook.com/Toxic Avenger, Mark Torgl, no spaces. I have a Twitter, twitter.com Toxic Tutu. There's an IMDb link. It pretty much if you Google Toxic Tutu, a lot of this will show up. But yeah, the big ones, the Facebook ones, the Indiegogo ones. There's a YouTube link where we're putting footage, you know, some teaser footage up on our YouTube, and that's also under Toxic Tutu. So yeah, I actually have a sort of a secondary Facebook page called Melvin Ferd, because Melvin Ferd was the first name of Melvin, and then later it got changed to Melvin Junko. So I am Melvin Ferd also on Facebook, and I post a lot of stuff there, mostly for fans.
That's great. Well, Mark, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an honor having you on. Like I said, I was 8 years old when The Toxic Avenger came out, and it's a movie that has stuck with me ever since. So I want to thank you so much for the years of enjoyment.
Well, you're very welcome. I hope it hasn't ruined you forever.
Oh, it has. It has. I blame you entirely. So, but again, we want to thank you. If there's any updates, please let us know, and I'll get them up on Horror Society, and I'll have a link up to the Indiegogo up here in the next day or so, and I'll send that along to you.
That's very awesome. Thank you so much, Michael.
Oh, thank you so much for being on. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, we want to say thank you to Mark Torgl, who was Melvin Ferd, a.k.a. Melvin Junko, in The Toxic Avenger, and, of course, his upcoming feature films. He has a part in Return to Nukem High Volume 2 and the mockumentary Toxic Tutu, which will also have Lloyd Kaufman and it looks like a host of others. Coming up, we're going to have our Scream Factory Blu-ray review of Cat People. But before we do that, we are going to go into the next song in our Metal Blade Spotlight. We got something brand new for you right now. The name of the band is Whitechapel, off of the new album, Our Endless War. The name of the song is Diggs Road. And welcome back to the Calling Hours Horror Podcast on Horror Society Radio. This is the Head Undertaker, the Dead Man, Michael Jones. It's been a great evening so far. That was the second song in our Metal Blade Spotlight for the evening. That was Whitechapel off of their brand new CD, Our Endless War. The name of the song was Diggs Road. Make sure to head over to metalblade.com and check out the band's page. You can also order the CD for download or the actual disc. You can also head to your local retailer or over to iTunes to download this new album. I think it might be time, once again, for some digital dismemberment.
Digital dismemberment.
And in the Screen Factory Spotlight this evening for digital dismemberment, we have the DVD, or the Blu-ray of Paul Schrader's Cat People, released on January 21st of this year. Screen Factory is proud to present the provocative 1982 thriller Cat People Collector's Edition Blu-ray. Directed by Paul Schrader of Taxi Driver and Raging Bull fame, this memorable cult hit is a remake of 1942 Jacques Tourneu's horror noir classic. The all-star cast includes Natasha Kinski of Tess and Savior, Malcolm McDowell, Clockwork Orange if it even needs to be said, John Hurd of Prison Break and The Sopranos, Annette O'Toole of 48 Hours, and features music by Giorgio Mortero of Top Gun and Flashdance, with Cat People theme sung by legendary artist David Bowie. Give you a little bit more info on this film. This is the first time that the film has been available on Blu-ray. It features an anamorphic widescreen movie presentation and is packed with a bounty of special bonus content, a collectible cover featuring newly rendered retro-style artwork, a reversible wrap with original theatrical key art, and more. To give you basically the synopsis, this is a remake of the 1942 Jacques Tourneur horror noir classic, The Cat People. It stars Natasha Kinski as Irina, the beautiful young woman who discovers love for the first time, only to find that the experience brings tragic consequences. The tremendous passion of this girl's first romantic love is so strong, however, it bypasses the chaos around her, including the extraordinary demands of her brother, who's played by Malcolm McDowell, as it pushes her onto her own bizarre destiny. Written and directed by Paul Schrader, this erotic fantasy about the passion and terror surrounding this first love also stars John Hurd, Annette O'Toole, Ruby Dee, and of course, Lynn Lowry. The special features included on the disc include new interviews with writer-director Paul Schrader, Natasha Kinski, Malcolm McDowell, John Hurd, Annette O'Toole, and composer Giorgio Mortero. Each one of them brings a little bit something different to their interviews. They all speak very fondly of working on the film. One of the things that every one of the actors hit on is that it was not an actual Puma that they were filming. In fact, I think the best comment came from Malcolm McDowell, where he looks at the camera and he goes, I think it was a cougar that they spray painted black, but I don't think I should be telling this story. It was just funny how he deadpans telling it. But, they all talk about working with the big cats and working with one another, and what a great shoot it was. John Hurd, in particular, one of the funnier moments, if you want to call it that, was him talking about his shyness and not liking to do nudity on film, which, is just an interesting touch. You usually don't hear the male actors talking about having to be nude for any of their scenes or anything like that. But overall, the film looks absolutely amazing. I mean, the scan of this film is practically flawless. I'd be hard-pressed to find another film, even in Screen Factory's catalog, that looks and sounds as good as this one does. And you know, for those of you that don't know too much about the film, a little bit of detail, it's you could say it's kind of a spin-off of the whole lycanthrope, you know, werewolf type thing. Of course, they're not werewolves. They're, if you want to call them anything, they're werepumas. But you have the character of Irina, who comes to the city and she meets her brother, played by Malcolm McDowell, in the bus station, and you can kind of tell already things are a little bit strange. And as it turns out, the family's affliction is, you know, whenever they have sex with a human, they transform into a panther and cannot transform back until they kill. And Malcolm McDowell is basically going around the city mauling people, you know, while he was waiting for his sister to show up, and telling her that the only way that you know that they can coexist is, you know, to be together. And Irina definitely does not want to do that, and winds up falling for the character, not Paul Schrader, John Hurt's character, who is the head of the zoo, and his partner is Annette O'Toole, you know, and they go around trying to hunt down this cat, you know, only not finding out until much later that it is Malcolm McDowell's character. Annette O'Toole actually winds up shooting the panther, and during an autopsy performed by John Hurt, when he opens the panther up, a human arm kind of flops out before the whole body dissolves. And at the end, you're kind of left to wonder whether Irina is going to attack Annette O'Toole's character, who, you know, kind of has a romantic thing for John Hurt's character. The set pieces are absolutely amazing. Like I said, the film is well acted. Natasha, you can definitely tell she gets her acting chops from her father. There are some very eerie similarities between the two. And, you know, they both played the parts very well. Malcolm McDowell talks about several scenes that were filmed backwards. So, like, when he jumps up on the bedpost, it was shot in reverse, where he jumps backwards. It looks more fluid. So when he jumps up, it's, you know, almost like how a cat would land. And I found that to be a very interesting idea on how to shoot the sequences and to make it look more realistic. Other special features also included, by the way, I forgot to mention. There is the theatrical trailer, of course. There is the TV spot trailer, of course, which is nice. There's a still gallery, and then there's a poster art gallery. So they definitely brought a lot of nice elements into it. I thought the interviews were extremely informative and helped to show a lot of new things with the disc. You know, as far as the film, you know, I definitely give the film about a 7.5, 8 as far as the rating. As far as the disc goes, when you take into account how majestic the movie sounds, how great the picture quality is, I think the interviews really added a lot of back information that the average fan, or even the not-so-average fan, may not have known. Even being a fan of some of these actors in the films, I certainly learned quite a bit by listening to Malcolm McDowell's interview segment as well as Paul Schrader's. So I highly recommend that you go and get this one. You can certainly head over to Shout Factory or ScreamFactory.com and order it from them. I do believe it is available for download on iTunes, so I will send you over there to get it. Your big box store, if they can get it, or, of course, Amazon.com. Well, we're going to do a little bit of a quick treat. I meant to open the show with it, but starting next week, we are going to have a new opening theme for the show that I think fits in well with who I am, what Horror Society is, and everything like that. And just want to go on the record, this is also a tribute. As everyone knows, I'm a big wrestling fan, and WrestleMania 30 was this past weekend, and unfortunately, you know, The Undertaker did not keep his undefeated streak, but just remember this. The streak was the streak. The streak has been broken, but long live the streak. The Undertaker is still a legend. He is always the man, and he always will be the man. So as kind of a tribute and to pass along the new song, when you open the show the next week, this is what you're going to hear.
As I lay me down to sleep, I pray my soul is mine to keep. My soul and never step outside this bed, never into all the evil. Now back from the dead.
Are you scared?
Here.
So when you tune in next week, that's what you're going to hear. So don't be surprised when things change. I just wanted to give everyone the heads up and pay tribute to one of my favorite pro wrestlers of all time. And even though he was injured at WrestleMania, and, you know, I don't think he listens to the show, but Undertaker, Mark Calloway, thank you for all the years of entertainment, and I hope you heal up very soon. I think it's been a great show this evening. We have had writer, editor, producer, and actor Mark Torgl on, and he discussed his upcoming project, Toxic Tutu. We also had Deanna Uutela of Living Dead magazine on. We did DVD reviews of IFC's Haunter and Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Cat People. Thank you to Tom Chen out at Scream Factory for that. We had several bands in our Metal Blade spotlight for the evening. We heard from Demonical off the CD Darkness Unbound, King of All. We also heard a new song by Whitechapel off of their brand new CD, Our Endless War. The name of the song was Diggs Road. To close out the show, we're going to go into the final song in our Metal Blade spotlight for the evening. This is from a band I played last week that had a new release. The name of the band is Below. The name of the CD is Across the Dark River. And the song is Mare of the Night. And until next week, ladies and gentlemen, rest in peace.
Bye.